Hey, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Welcome to Let's Write Books. I'm Micah Crowdy. I'm the head of writing at Butterdocs. What is Let's Write Books? Let's Write Books is a weekly live stream show where writers can come together for community, advice, and most importantly, a dedicated time to work on your novel. That's what we're going to be doing here today, working on our novels. Brought to you by Butterdocs, which is the perfect app for writing your novel. It's what I'm using, and you can learn more about Butterdocs and get a discount code in the link below. So what are we doing today on Let's Write Books? We are focusing on the building blocks of your novel, the scenes. We're doing scene writing. We're going to be working on either a specific scene in your novel you haven't written yet, or you're rewriting. So you're going to choose a scene that you either want to work on today, or maybe you've already written it and it's just like a little week maybe, and you want to do some rewriting on it. And that's what we're going to work on today. And I'm really excited to do that because a lot of the stuff we've been doing in recent weeks has been more like free writing, kind of about more like development work, story development, character development, that kind of stuff. So today I'm very excited to actually just get in there and dig into the scenes, which are just again, it's what your book is made out of. And I think it's often overlooked in terms of like the big thing, the story structure. People will think about that, the different, the hero's journey, the different ways of structuring your book, but the scenes themselves, sometimes aren't given the same focus, and they really should be, because that's what your reader is actually reading at any time, is the scenes of your book. I want to welcome everyone joining me live or watching the replay. And if you're watching live, I'd love to know in the chat where you are, what kind of book you're writing, and where you are in the process. Just how's the writing going for you? Has it been going well lately? The words been flowing, or are you struggling a little bit? Which, writing just feels like a roller coaster sometimes. Sometimes it's a fun roller coaster, and sometimes it's just like an old-timey roller coaster that's like very jarring. Like, this is just a complete aside, but like I grew up going to Six Flags Magic Mountain, for roller coasters. And there was this roller coaster I loved called Viper. And it was like, it used to be the cool one. It's old now, but it used to be the cool one, and I would love it. And then I went back once, kind of after I'd grown some, and I got to this point where the thing that go over your shoulder used to be here, and then it went just to my ear level. And so every time my head moved, I banged my ears on the restraints, and it hurt really badly. That's all just to say, sometimes writing hurts, like your ears getting banged by a restraint thing that's supposed to keep you safe. Anyways, that's writing. That's a metaphor. That's the kind of brilliance that you're in store for here on Let's Write Books. Anyways, let me know where you are, what kind of book are you writing, and where are you in the process. I'm in Los Angeles. It is a beautiful day today. Really, it's perfect. This is the sort of why you live in LA kind of day. I'm writing a novel that genre-wise is kind of in the little literary fiction kind of. There's some nostalgia elements to it, kind of going home again, that sort of morphs more into a thriller. And I was kind of unlocking that a little bit last time on Let's Write Books, about how to sort of manage that kind of genre shifting as the intensity kind of in the book picks up. And so, yeah, last week I sort of feel like I made some progress on that. And I'm really early, and like I mentioned earlier, I'm kind of writing the novel over the course of Let's Write Books, and we've been doing a lot of story development, a lot of character development. So to get in and actually write some scenes today is going to be very exciting. So the way this is going to work structure-wise is we're going to do 3 25-minute sprints. And there'll be some sort of structure for those sprints, some prompts I'll give that are optional if you want to do them, if you want to do the work on the scene writing today, or you can just kind of do your own thing, because a lot of people here are at different points in their novel. So what we're working on today might not, match up exactly with where you are. But yeah, it'll be great. So yeah, we'll do 3, and then we'll chat a little bit in between the writing sprints. So love to see everyone here. Glad you're here. The South Dakotan contingent is strong. Juno in Massachusetts, checking in as always. Today I'm back to the story structure process. Gonna make it stronger if it kills me. It's not going to. You're gonna make it stronger. Teji in San Jose, if I remember correctly. Didn't write all weekend, so I'm excited to get back into it. Glad you're here. And Nephi in Seaside, glad you're here working on your fantasy European tribal story. Need a festival scene and a battle scene. Well, hey, we're working on scenes today, so you can at least get one of those. Sabrina in South Carolina, going through the 3rd draft of historical mystery. Fantastic. Glad you're here. Maybe you can do some rewriting or some new things. Juno also hasn't written since Let's Write Scripts last week, and so excited to get back in the game today. yeah, so we have 2 shows here that I host. Let's Write Books here on Mondays, and Let's Write Scripts for screenwriting on Wednesdays. And if you want to do Let's Write Scripts, there's a link. So we have 2 apps, basically. We have 2 writing apps. You probably know this, some of you, or a lot of you. We have ButterDocs, which is like a novel writing app, and Arc Studio, which is very similar, but it's a screenwriting app. Yeah, so you can check that out. There's also a link in the description below if you want to check out Let's Write Scripts on Monday, and it's really fun. Heidi in Sydney, Australia. You're probably, I think it's tomorrow. It's probably Tuesday there, right? If I got my time zones right. I hope the future is treating us well. If you have any insights about what's coming for the rest of us, let me know. Barbara in LA. Welcome back, Barbara. Good to see you as always. In the beginning stages of a magical realism novel. Fantastic. And I got it right. Tizzie's in San Jose. James, how's it going, man? Northern New Jersey, doing a revision of my comic book based loosely on a grim fairy tale with dark fantasy horror elements. It's interesting. You mentioned the comic book. I have this idea that I might try to work on as a graphic novel, and I'm not a big graphic novel guy, but there's a cool graphic novel store not too far from me that I went to, and I got one called The Harrowing, which is sort of like a coming of age sort of horror, almost a little bit thing. It was really cool. I don't know. I think I'm probably going to read more graphic novels. I'm more just like a classic novel guy, but I've been trying to read more like nonfiction too. I've read some really cool nonfiction books recently that I've loved, that have been just beautifully written and fascinating. The Warmth of Other Suns and Secondhand Time are 2 fantastic nonfiction books. They're like meaty, they're thick, but they're great. Anyways, that's great. Sabrina's a fan of James's novel, and Heidi says it's 4 a.m. on Tuesday and the future is looking God. Wow, that's like a level above good. Because that wasn't a typo. You meant that on purpose. It's looking God. Also, 4 a.m. on a Tuesday. Like, that's impressive. I don't know if you are up early or just haven't gone to sleep yet, but either way, I hope you have some caffeine and we can get some writing done. All right, so I wanted to kind of start with a couple of brief little readings to kind of get us in the mood for scene writing today. So this is a quote I want to read from Matt Bird. When I was kind of doing prep for today, do some research, I came across this quote from his book, The Secrets of Story. And I thought it was really interesting, and I think it gives good context for what we're doing here. Again, Matt Bird, The Secrets of Story, he writes, "At any given point in your story, the audience will be far more interested in the conflict within the current scene than in the overall conflict. If you allow yourself to create weak scenes in service of the larger story, you will sabotage your own work." I'm going to read that one more time. At any given point in your story, the audience will be far more interested in the conflict within the current scene than the overall conflict. If you allow yourself to create weak scenes in service of the larger story, you will sabotage your own work. Again, that was Matt Bird in The Secrets of Story. And I just think that's really, I haven't read his book, but I think that quote is fantastic and really kind of gets down to the heart of what we're doing today. In that scenes are how you hold your reader's attention. It's how you enthrall them, how you entertain them. It's scene by scene, and you have to sort of kind of keep hooking them, keep giving them something fascinating or intriguing or thrilling or scary or, so many things. But it's all done on the scene level. And that if you have sort of the big structure that you're trying to do and be like, okay, I'll just have some kind of put some bad scenes in to like get the structure, which is important, then you're going to lose the reader. Because it's the scene level that is, they don't like the reader isn't really cognizant of the overarching storyline. The only thing really that they have is the scene in front of them. So you as the writer have to have the overarching storyline in your head, but you have to just really make sure that the scenes are there because that's the point of contact with the reader. So love that quote. And then there's another quote here, which I might have mentioned before, from David Mamet. Every scene should be able to answer 3 questions. Who wants what from whom? What happens if they don't get it? And why now? I actually have that one here, so you can read that one. Every scene should be able to answer 3 questions. Who wants what from whom? What happens if they don't get it? Why now? I think that's a great kind of checklist to keep with you as you're writing scenes. If you have strong answers to those 3 questions, you're like well on your way to having a good scene. But just to break that down, and this is kind of tying in a little bit to the prompts we're going to be doing today. Who wants what from whom? What's the goal? What happens if they don't get it? We'd call that stakes. And why now? Like, why is it important now? Why is this an immediate thing? So yeah, things to keep in mind as we go through today. And our sprints are going to be a little different. Our first sprint is going to be a free writing sprint. And then our second sprint is actually just going to be you working on your novel. And then the third one is kind of a dealer's choice. You can sort of work on your novel more or do some more free writing. So sprint one is, the way this works is we're going to choose a scene. Again, either an existing scene that you're rewriting or a new scene. Doesn't have to be the first scene. It could be any scene. And we're going to do sprint one, where we're going to think about that scene. We're going to think about what the character's goal in the scene we've chosen is, what the obstacle is for creating conflict, and what the result of the scene is. So that's going to be sprint one, where we're kind of free writing about the scene. And then in sprint two, we're actually going to write that scene or rewrite that scene if you're doing a rewrite of a scene. But we're going to keep in mind everything that we wrote about, we thought about in the first sprint. So keeping in mind the goal, the obstacle, and the result we identified in the first sprint. So sprint one, free write about the scene, identifying these really important elements. And then in sprint three, it's kind of an option. You can do this. What is the aftermath of your scene? How does your character feel? What dilemma do they face? What is their new goal? It's kind of how do they react to that scene? And then how does it push the story forward? This is also known as, I think, kind of the scene and sequel method that you might have come across in writing, where basically it's a structure of writing a scene and then kind of writing a reaction to that scene, which then leads you to the next scene. So that's sprint three. Or optionally, if you want to keep working on that scene that you were working on in sprint three, you can work on heightening the scene with complexity, surprise, tension, humor, or just kind of continuing that scene. So we've got some options today. But we're going to start with the first sprint. And this is really important. What is the character's goal in the scene you've chosen? What obstacles creating conflict? And what is the result of the scene? I really believe that like most of your scenes should have these elements. Not every scene, but like most strong scenes are going to have this. It gives a reason for the scene having a goal. You know, it's like why this is happening. It creates stakes. It creates engagement. It creates investment and consequences. So what's the character's goal? And for goal, oftentimes, remember, it doesn't have to be something tangible. It can be. They can want food or money or, I don't know, you know, whatever it is. Or it could be something emotional. It could be they want to feel loved. You know, they want to express love. They want to hurt somebody. They want to, you know, feel comfort or pleasure or just avoid pain. You know, they can be there's a lot of different ways, but like they have something motivating them. But of course, if we're writing dramatically, there needs to be some sort of conflict, right? And conflict comes from obstacles. So whatever this thing is that they want, and again, it can be something very simple and physical. It can be something larger and abstract, but there's something creating conflict. What's that obstacle? I mean, obviously there's so many things that could be, right? It could be something in themselves. It could be another person. It could be something in the world, in the environment. But something's keeping them from dealing with it. And how they deal with that obstacle is basically what the scene is about. That's like the heart, the meat of the scene is them dealing with that obstacle in some sense. And then we end with the result of the scene. Did they get what they wanted? Did they succeed or did they fail? Oftentimes, you know, what's important is that whatever the result is can lead to something else. So obviously if they fail, that's a new complication. If they succeed, maybe there's a catch. And then that, you know, creates more scenes or more potential for the next scene. Or, you know, if they succeed, they gain some new information or something, which then propels them in a new direction. But the idea is that it's something mostly propulsive or reactive that happens there. So this is what we're going to do for our first sprint. We're going to be thinking about what's our character's goal in the scene you've chosen. So maybe the first thing you do is figure out what scene you want to work on if you haven't done that yet. Then we're going to think about what's the goal, what obstacles creating conflict, and what is the result of the scene. So what I'm going to do now is put some music on, put 25 minutes on the clock, and we're going to get into it. We're going to do some writing. It's a beautiful day. And then we'll come back, check in, see how the sprint went, do some announcements, and, you know, move forward. And I'm feeling good about today. I don't know. I think we're going to get some good writing done. I'm feeling good vibes. So what do you think? Should we do it? Yeah, let's get some writing done. 25 minutes on the clock. Going to start the music. Let's get into it. All right. Happy riding, everybody. That brings us to the end of the first writing sprint. Again, welcome. Well, first off, welcome to everyone who joined during that writing sprint. This is Let's Write Books. We're working on scene writing today. We're doing 3 writing sprints. That was the first one. We're going to do 2 more. And yeah, for that one, the prompt was to choose a scene in your novel, either one you're rewriting or one you haven't written yet, and figure out what your character's goal is in that scene, what obstacle is creating conflict. So basically what's keeping them from their goal, and what the result is. Do they succeed? Do they fail? Do they succeed, but there's some sort of catch? Is there a disaster? Yeah. So I want to know, how'd that go for you guys? How was the first writing sprint? Let me know. Are the muses with us today? Are they blessing us with their presence? Are the words flowing? If you were doing the prompt, did you unlock anything in your scene? I did a little bit, because it's interesting, because I was kind of realizing, I was thinking about the scene that I'm working on, that there's sort of 2 conflicts in it. Like, he has his overall goal, and it sort of starts out rocky, right? Like, he has this thing he wants, and it's just not going well at the start. When we come into the scene, he's not in a good place. There's just lots of stuff going on. But then he kind of overcomes that early stuff, and so there's sort of that dip, and there's a rise where he's going to get his goal. He is getting it. He's achieving it. Everything kind of feels wonderful. And then the second obstacle, which is the true obstacle of the scene, which is kind of the obstacle. This is a scene from early in my book, so it's sort of like the obstacle basically for the whole story is this obstacle that hits him, and he just like plummets. It's the big thing. It's this thing that he's going to be rocky with. So I just like that shape where it sort of starts sort of rocky and low, then he kind of gets this false high, and then he hits it again and is low. But then that's where I was going to leave him, but I kind of like, I don't know, it's like, oh, there's another layer I could add where there could just be like a little bit of hope there. I mean, this character's kind of my antagonist, interestingly. He's sort of the bad guy, but like, it's about friendship in a way, and he sees an old friend that triggers these feelings. And it's just sort of, he has this thought where like, basically the presence of the friend reminds him of an old problem, something from the past is coming back to haunt him. But he just kind of then at the very end has this like, but my friend's here, so like, at least I'm not alone, So I like that, because it's sort of it's a launching point forward, where it's like he's devastated. There's this problem that he thought was gone has come back to haunt him, but at least I'm not alone. So I think it does well at promising things future in the book. So that sprint was really good for me. I want to know how it went for you. So again, get in the chat, let me know, how'd that writing sprint go? Did you figure out anything about the shape of your scene? Did anything surprise you in it, like that kind of ending of the scene? I thought I kind of already knew the shape of the scene, but I sort of found this other layer of it, which was exciting for me. So I want to know about that. I also wanted to mention, I kind of talked about it earlier, but we have the other writing show called Let's Write Scripts, our screenwriting show on Wednesdays. And that's Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Pacific. And if you want to join for that, there is a link below. You can just go to arcstudiopro.com/events, but there's a link in the description below. And that's really fun. It's kind of it's more of a free forming. We don't like, the prompts aren't as direct. It's more of like an open writing time, but you also don't have to write scripts there at Let's Write Scripts, just like you don't have to write books necessarily here. It's just what our focus is. If you just want another time to write, like midweek, then you can show up to Let's Write Scripts and just kind of write with other people, because sometimes writing can be lonely, and it can be nice to have the support, and and just, it can help to tune out distractions if you're like, this is why I'm here. This is why I'm here. So anyways, you can RSVP for that in the link below. Juno, slow start here today, but at least it's starting it all. Yeah, it's Monday, right? And so that's one of the reasons why you kind of get it can be rough, especially because like if you're in the US, daylight saving time started. So like your internal clock maybe just completely messed up. But don't be too hard on yourself. It's going slow. Like, the fact that you're doing it at all, I think, is a win, right? That you've set aside this time for your writing and you're doing it. So at least it's starting this all. But Neffy, loving the prompts. Fantastic. Glad that you are feeling it today. You kind of got away from what you thought you were going to write and went down in a rabbit hole about ancient gourds and doing the details. Got to get the gourds right. Like that's honestly, they don't tell you that, but that's one of the secrets of literature is getting the gourds right. You're just going to get destroyed if you have the wrong gourds, if you have historically inaccurate gourds. So way to go, Neffy. Way to let them down. Barbara's feeling it. Fun sprint, capital fun. I love it. Love that energy. Loving the rabbit holes. Yeah. Neffy unlocked. Need to set up a little extra history of how the tribe started out. Leaders. All right, cool. Juno, realizing what I thought was the end point of my story might actually be the midpoint. Oh, wow. Fascinating. It's interesting. Yeah, I love how like the story can can develop. And yeah, agreeing about the gourds. Like really, I should just probably do an episode about Let's Write Books that's just all about gourds. Or maybe just like an entire YouTube channel about gourds. Because it's one of the funnest words to say, honestly. I might just keep saying gourds over and over again. Okay, so that was sprint 1. And we are going to move into the second sprint. And what we're basically going to do is pretty simple. Take the scene that you were free writing, if you're doing it in sprint 1, and work on that scene. It's only a 25-minute sprint, so obviously you might not write the entire scene. Maybe you're only writing part of the scene that has to do kind of with maybe when the obstacle is introduced. Really, you can do whatever you want. But for sprint 2, we are going to write our chosen scene, and we're going to keep in mind those aspects that we were thinking about in the first sprint. The goal of our characters, the obstacle that they're facing, and the result, giving it that shape, giving it that momentum, making sure, that the character cares about the scene, that it's motivated, going back to those 3 questions that we started with David Mamet, who wants what from whom, what happens if they don't get it, why now? It's important, right, to have that sort of sense of motivation for your scene, for your characters, because it's also like if your characters care about what's going on, the reader, I always believe, is more likely to care about it as well. So I am going to put 25 fresh minutes on the clock, play some more music, and we're just going to get down to it. And I'm not going to talk too much. We're just going to do some writing because that's what we are here to do. So yeah, all right. I'm going to start the music, put the clock timer up, and we'll get back into it, everybody. Again, if you joined recently, this is Let's Write Books, brought to you by ButterDocs. You can check out ButterDocs, the great app for writing your novel. It's what I'm using, the sponsor of this event. And you can go to butterdocs.com/fiction. And there's also, I think, a discount code in the description below to check it out. But ButterDocs is great. It's kind of like Google Docs meets Scrivener kind of a thing. Like you get the collaboration and online access of like a Google Docs with some of the organizing and note-taking and world-building and research tools kind of that you get in a Scrivener. Really great app. Anyways, check that out. But here we go. I'm going to play the music, 25 fresh minutes on the clock, and we're going to do some writing, y'all. It's going to be great. Let's do it. And that brings us to the end of the second writing sprint. That was our scene writing sprint. So first off, welcome to everyone who joined during that writing sprint, particularly the people in Europe or anywhere else that didn't have daylight saving time this weekend and was caught off guard by the fact that we started in earlier than you thought. See you, Rosie and Elia in the chat. Glad you guys were here. Apologies for that, but such is the terror of daylight savings time. It's rampage continues. Tiffany, welcome as well. Glad you all are here. Yeah, that was our second writing sprint. We are working on scene writing today. So in our first sprint, to catch you up, we identified a scene that we were going to work on today, whether it's a new scene or a rewrite. And we're identifying what our character's goal was in the scene that we chose, what obstacle was creating conflict, basically what was between them and their goal, and what is the result of the scene. Did they fail? Did they succeed? Did they succeed with a catch? And that, has looking at that as basically a helpful structure for scene. That, like, if you have this kind of approach to a scene, it can help you create gripping scenes, tense scenes that keep the audience interested, keep things moving forward. And then in sprint 2, we started working on those scenes. So that's what I was working on. I didn't get through all of it in the 25 minutes. I kind of got up to the first obstacle because my scene kind of has multiple obstacles in there. But I want to know, how did that sprint go for everyone? For people who were here for the second sprint or for both, did the muses show up? Did they abandon you? How's the writing going? Were you working on a scene? Did you find anything there? Any surprises? Did you find anything helpful in the approach of kind of establishing the goal and the obstacle from that goal for your character in that scene? Was that helpful at all? Let me know. Get in the chat. If you are, for everybody here, if you join us next week, we are going to be working on writing your first chapter. That's going to be our focus. Obviously, you can work on anything you want while you're here, but we're going to be thinking about strategies for that, for launching the novel. I think it's a good follow-up for scene writing then, to kind of just look at the first chapter of your book, what kind of strategies you're using to introduce your story, introduce your characters, engage the reader, kind of set up the promise of your story. So that'll be next week. You can RSVP. There's a link below. And I don't think there's any time changes between now and next week, so hopefully no one will be caught off guard. I think the Europeans are going to have to adjust again in a couple of weeks when you guys get daylight saving time, I think, which is at the end of the month. But that is going to be next week. So hope to see you all there. And in the chat, no need to apologize. We're here together now. We're one big happy family. So glad to have all our friends in Europe here and the UK, because it's a little unclear sometimes whether the UK considers themselves Europe, the whole Brexit thing and everything. Ooh, a good question here. Does a scene equal a chapter? Can there be multiple scenes in a chapter? Yes, there definitely can. A scene doesn't have to be a chapter. It's kind of interesting. A chapter, there are a lot of different ways. Maybe we'll do a session on chapter writing, but there's a lot of different ways to approach a chapter. A chapter can be a scene, or there can be multiple scenes within it. So it's sort of not necessarily like a hard and fast rule, particularly if you're doing things with perspective. There's a lot you can do. So sometimes you could have multiple scenes in a chapter. So you might have multiple goals, multiple conflicts, multiple obstacles, as you mention it, as you move forward. So yeah, sometimes, but not exclusively. Depends on your book. And apologies to Rosie for triggering with the mention of that tumultuous time in your nation's past. All right, cool. So that was our first two sprints, and we are going to jump pretty soon into our final sprint. And again, there's some options with this one. Something in the chat. Yeah, Sabrina was saying Google Docs meets Scrivener is exactly what makes me love ButterDocs. Same. That's kind of, the shorthand, I think, of what ButterDocs is. Google Docs meets Scrivener. And I think that's what makes it a really good writing app. So if you haven't, please check it out. butterdocs.com/fiction, or you can check out the description below. There's a link to look at it here. For Barbara, another great sprint, more clarity on the theme and story, and realize the scene is really two, and the first would be better earlier in the story. Awesome. Yeah, the scenes are kind of like living, breathing things. And it's kind of, they don't necessarily stay in one place like you thought we're planning on them for doing. But glad that was a good sprint. Okay, so for this third sprint, I mentioned there are kind of options here. So I think personally for me, I'm just going to keep working on that scene because I got into it. I wrote like about 400 words, but like, there's more in this scene for me to go. So I'm going to keep working on it. But I want to give you kind of a few options if you're following along. One, just keep working on that scene, keeping in mind the goal, obstacle, and the resolution. Two, you can kind of move on to this next thing if you're finished with it, which is basically what is the aftermath of your scene? How does the character feel? What dilemma do they face? What is their new goal? It's basically kind of the idea where you have something happening with the scene. Someone has a goal, a conflict, there's a result, and then there's some sort of reaction to that, right? There's sort of a period of reflection. There is maybe a time where you're just sort of reeling from it, and then you're kind of coming to grasp, particularly if this previous preceding scene ended in failure, where you're sort of like coming to grips with like your new reality after that first scene, and then kind of coming to a new goal, basically. This is the sort of scene and sequel structure, which can be useful in writing, where you have a scene where there's a pursuit of a goal, a result, most often a failure, and then a sequel where there's a sort of reflection, and then you're going to face a good dilemma. Okay, what do I do now? And even though there's no good choices, and then you kind of create a new goal, and then that leads you to your next scene where then your character can pursue that goal. So that's the second option where you can kind of think about that. What's the aftermath of your scene? How does your character feel? What dilemma do they face? What is their new goal that can then lead you to another scene? Or you can do a little rewrite on that scene we were just working on. How can you heighten it with complexity, surprise, tension, humor, a lot of other elements? So you got a lot of options here for the third sprint, depending on where you are in your writing. And Rosie, I think PDFs are coming soon. Yeah, that's going to be in ButterDocs if it's not in there yet. But I was just thinking about some of the export stuff that, we're still improving these, trying to build it and make it the best software there can be. But yeah, that'll be there. Okay, so we're going to our final sprint. If you have to leave during the sprint, thank you so much for showing up. I hope to see you either on Wednesday at Let's Write Scripts or next week at Let's Write Books, or at both if you want, because I'll be at both. And if you do stick around till the end, we will have a final goodbye. Yeah, let's do it. So this is one of the options, of course. There is multiple ways of approaching this one. Again, I'm going to keep writing my scene because I'm getting into it, feeling the vibe. And play some more music and catch y'all on the flip side. But again, if you have to leave during the sprint, let me know how it went. Let me know how you're doing. Say farewell. Like Katie Phillips just did, dipping out early. See you next time, Katie. And all right, y'all, let's do it. Last sprint, lock in, give ourselves this time to focus in on writing. We're going to do a 20-minute sprint on this one because it's the last one. And let me just adjust my timer slightly. There we go. Let's do it. All right, everybody. Happy writing. Let's lock in. And that brings us to the end of the third writing sprint. I'm going to keep the music playing because why not? It's nice to have a little background track. That is, again, the end of our third writing sprint and the end of Let's Write Books for, Monday, March 10th. I want to thank everyone for showing up today. I hope you got some writing done. I hope it went well for you. I was excited. I got like 750 words down, I think, which is like not too bad. But yeah, if you were doing the sprints about scene writing, I hope you unlock some things about your scenes, about the goals that your characters have going into the scenes, the conflicts they face and how they're resolved, and that you keep that kind of with you in the back of your head as you're moving forward with your novel. Because sometimes, our writing can get a little aimless. And if you feel that happening, it can be good to sort of return to this exercise. That's enough of the music, I think. But anyways, everyone, if you came late, by the way, and you're just kind of in the zone, keep writing. Don't stop just because I'm ending. I hope you have a good writing day, regardless of me. But yeah, everyone, I hope to see you either Wednesday at Let's Write Scripts or next week at Let's Write Books, where we're going to be focusing on writing the first chapter or approaching the first chapter or rewriting the first chapter, kind of depending on where you are in the writing process. But until then, everyone, be kind to yourselves. And yeah, happy writing. All right, guys, I'll catch you later.